you ever speak to me like that again, better be wearing a cup.
Baby steps.
One break, I'm in up.
Let's everybody take your positions, please. Here we go. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, rolling. Dave!
And
Dave!
Unchained.
welcome to Dave and Dave Unchained, a Van Halen podcast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Dave.
And we are at episode 37, Dave.
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks.
In a row?
Hi, Randall.
37? Shut up.
We are at the top of 2019, and the question is this the year, Dave? Is this the year that yours, mine, and all our listeners' dreams come true?
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
Crossing fingers and toes.
That's right, that's right. And we are at a position right now where we're really not sure what the hell is going on. Everything is in question. To use a modern term, everything's in the cloud. Everything's in the cloud. We don't know what's in the cloud. Somehow it's in the cloud. We don't know what's what. But
Very cloudy.
That's
Very
right.
cloudy.
That's right. We are going to get into all these interesting little deets. I feel like we are in an Angela Lansbury murder mystery, Dave, with all these clues and all these little things. Are they red herrings or are they really real clues? I don't know what the hell's going on, but let me tell you something. I feel like I'm on a 5th date with a girl, and I don't even know if she likes me. So we shall...
That's quite the analogy.
It's quite the analogy. But I figured I'd start the new year off with a bang. I just want to start off by wishing Eddie Van Halen a happy 64th birthday.
You still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Eddie is 64 years old, if we could believe that. It's a miracle that he's alive, but it's also good that he's healthy and well, and we want to wish Eddie a big happy birthday. And we are going to get into the guts of the rumors in our Van Halen news segment. Now, let's go right to the top. Okay, so... in the last time we left you, we were all wondering whether Van Halen was going to tour. Whether this whole stadium tour that Dave so very carefully teased with his titular words. And if Michael Anthony was going to be involved in the mix. Well, the short man with the beard and the mullet came out of hiding a little bit. And it appears that he is indicating that there's no reunion with him and Van Halen. However, his statement was carefully worded.
Yes.
He said this to, what was it, the Premier Network Radio or something? He said here, I haven't spoken to any of the guys since we last played together back in 2004. Okay, fine. I could believe that. However, that doesn't mean that negotiations haven't been happening between promoters and managers. So that was a very carefully worded thing, and I'm starting to wonder, Dave, if we're all just being jerked around because Dave's carefully wording, Mike's carefully wording, everybody's tipping around. This is getting a little weird. So now if Mike goes on tour with Van Halen, I wonder what that means for the Circle, which is Sammy Hagar's band, which Mike is in. Now, it's been completely quiet on the Sammy Hagar front. We have a little bit of something on Sammy in the news here, but that was just an end-of-the-year message. But it's been very, very quiet, and I'm wondering, Dave, if Sammy is holding off, anticipating Van Halen's next move. What do you think?
I don't know. He's smart, though.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, I mean, if he's waiting for the Van Halen news and then riding the coattails of that,
Right.
he could totally be doing that.
Right.
I'll tell you, though, if Mike is actually signed on for something Van Halen,
Right.
and like we said last time, they might only be doing like a handful of shows.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't interfere with the Circle at all. Because I don't know that Sam's necessarily doing this big tour thing either.
Well,
so Mike could totally do both.
Okay, wait a second, though. According to Sammy's message, and we'll get to it later, but he does indicate that they're going to be touring behind this album. In fact, he indicates in the message, like I said, we'll get to it later, he is going to play the new album in its entirety, plus hits.
Okay, that's fine. But like, what kind of tour is he doing?
Yeah.
Like, if he's only touring for like a month or two.
Right.
I mean,
he can do both. You're right. You're right. Yeah.
But who knows? You're right. Mike was very vague.
Very vague.
Because if they had asked him and he said, "Look, guys, I'm not playing with them. I'm not touring with them. I'm not doing nothing with them."
Or if he says something like, "My time in Van Halen is done."
Right.
You know,
then
I mean,
very,
something,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then very crystal clear. Or if he said, "Look, I'll never say never, but I'm telling you right now, there's no pot on the stove.
Right.
There's nothing."
Okay.
But, and of course the problem is when he says something vague like that, like, "Well, I haven't spoken to them since 2004.
Right.
So now everyone starts reading into that, right? For that little glimmer of hope.
I know.
The four of them will be on stage once again.
Right.
And believe me, you and I are right up there hoping and praying and all that, right?
Right.
And all that. But I'm not holding my breath, but who knows,
Right.
It's all fodder for conjecture. When they give answers like that, it's all fodder for conjecture.
Right, exactly. Now, here's the other thing I want to bring up, okay? So now some were wondering about a possible stadium tour for Van Halen. You're saying, how could Van Halen do a stadium tour? Well, there's a way, and here's how. Now, last summer, okay, Irving Azoff, who's Van Halen's manager, is also Journey's manager. He put together a stadium show tour. They didn't hit all stadiums. Some were indoor arenas, but this was a hot ticket of Journey paired with Def Leppard. And when they went to a stadium show, they had an extra band. I forgot who it was. I don't know if it was Hart or somebody, but it was another band that went with them. They did stadiums around the country. They didn't do it in New York where I was. I saw them at Madison Square Garden, but let me tell you something. You couldn't find a ticket. Okay, these guys played full sets each, absolutely solidly packed with hits. And people were eating this up, Dave, and the tickets weren't cheap, and they really, really sold well. So I'm wondering if he's going to go out and do this with Van Halen, because there were some rumblings about what if Van Halen paired with a reunited Journey for the next tour, meeting with Steve Perry. Now, the reason The reason
I heard that. Yeah.
The reason
and
I bring
that would work.
Right. Now,
'cause,
here's the thing. Now, we all know that Steve Perry came out with a solo album in October, right? And something makes me wonder why Perry is not capitalizing on that album. He got a lot of press, and he was out there on radio, television, and print, doing all kinds of interviews, but he hasn't toured, and he's been dragging his feet about touring. So I'm wondering if he's holding off for a large payday. Now, let me tell you something. This is how crazy Journey is. Number one, Arnel, who is the singer, Arnel Pineda, I think his last name is, okay?
Right.
He would very easily and willfully take a pause, okay, and step out while the reunited Journey did their thing and then come back in later. So Arnell's like cool with that, number one, because he's talked about it.
Well, he wouldn't have a choice.
Right,
really.
right. But he has like almost like a Kiss situation, the way Bruce and Eric had to pause or whatever. Think about how hot a ticket would be if you had a reunited Van Halen and a reunited Journey. That would be a smoking stadium ticket. Smoking.
Oh, yeah.
Smoking.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody said, oh, Journey. No. Van Halen and Journey. Van Halen is definitely harder than Journey. But number one, these guys are from the same exact era. They have the same manager. They have very similar fans. We're talking about classic rock, folks. We're not mincing hairs.
Yeah, I mean, look, close enough for government
right,
work.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly, right. So I don't know. That is in the air. Who knows? But let me tell you something. The field is getting crowded because a lot of tours are going out. Another tour was announced since we last last talked, we talked about Kiss, we talked about Rolling Stones, we talked about Queen and Ozzy and stuff, and now we have The Who going on tour. And
Who?
The Who? Ooh, The Who. Yeah, The Who's going on tour, and they're doing
The
a
Who?
huge thing, yep. So, who the hell knows what the hell's going on? But here's the thing. If Van Halen does a stadium tour, I'm thinking there's a couple of things they're going to need. Number one, they're going to have Mike. Number two, they're going to need to play a solidly packed hit set list. They may even capitalize, or they could, on the 35th anniversary of 1984 and make it a big thing around that. I don't see that happening, but that's a possibility. And also, listen, if they don't do anything at this point, I mean, think about the burn. Think about if you and I are sitting here podcasting next January and be like, wow, all of that hype and nothing happened. That might crush not only Van Halen's fans, but it might also crush Wolf's project, and unless Wolf is added to that tour. You know what I mean? So this is a very complicated web right now. You know what I'm saying?
But Van Halen doesn't think that way. They don't care.
Yeah, I know, but I tell you who does
whenever
is
they're
Irving.
ready to tour and the offer's right, then they'll tour. And they'll expect people to come out of the woodwork to see them.
Right.
And granted, there will be lots of people who come out to see them.
Right.
Absolutely, because they're not as emotionally wrapped up in it as you and I are.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
But you're right. As time goes on and you play this, yank the chain games.
Right.
Some people they're just like, you know what, forget it.
Right.
And you're right. With so many other tickets out there.
Oh, yeah.
That are already out there.
Sure.
You spend your money on that. By the time Van Halen and Journey gets announced, some
Right.
people are like, you know what? I'm already seeing Ozzy.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm already seeing The Who.
Right.
Like, I'm tapped out.
Right,
I'm tapped
exactly. And here's the other thing I'm starting to wonder. I'm looking back, now that I've had a little perspective, and I'm looking back on the David Lee Roth interviews, okay, that he did with Vulture and stuff. I'm wondering if he started leaking some of this stuff on purpose to sort of get some feelers out there to see what the waters would be like if people were interested in a Van Halen stadium tour. Another article came out on Dave, this one from the New York Times, but wow, there was no new information in there. And supposedly another one's coming. I don't know where. I'm actually shocked that Rolling Stone hasn't done anything with Dave. They're usually right on the tip for this. And they
good point.
Yeah,
good
so
point.
that's shocking. They're usually all over anything Van Halen. So I'm a little surprised there. But let me tell you something. The one guy who's out there getting the gears going is Mike Portnoy. And boy, is he a character. So Mike Portnoy is already lobbying for the Sons of Apollo to be the opening act on the projected Van Halen 2019 tour. And wow, is this guy an unbelievable opportunist. And he says, as a quote, "We would be beyond honored, pretty much the number one band we'd want to open for." Good old Mike, always capitalizing on an opportunity. I'm surprised he doesn't want to replace Alex in Van Halen, Dave.
Well, he can't because he just joined 3 more bands while you were reporting that story.
That's right. Hey, you know what? Now that
What?
I know Eddie Trunk, and we'll get to Mr. Trunk later, but Eddie Trunk was talking to Geddy Lee, who obviously is the lead singer and bassist for Rush. Rush is retired now, and drummer Neil Peart is completely and totally unequivocally retired in the sense that he is no longer playing the drums, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Portnoy gets hooked up with Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson. I don't think they'll go out as Rush because you can't really do that without Neil, but Eddie was talking about a Lee Lifeson project in the future because, Geddy and Alex are buddies since they're children. Peart came into the band later on, and he actually was the replacement drummer in the band, but obviously the main, guy, and he's such an incredible musician himself. But if there is a guy that could